Hello, hello, hello. Hola, hola, hola. Welcome to this new episode of the Yoga for All Bodies video podcast. Today, I have an amazing guest for you. Gillespie is the founder of Room to Be Yoga. She seeks creative, accessible ways to move our bodies and truly come to our yoga practice with a sense of permission, play, and acceptance of ourselves just the way we are. And also, she's a wiggle expert. So I'm so happy you're here today, Jill. How are you?
Oh, I am so good. So happy that it is Friday on the day that we're recording this.
Yes. The weekend is coming.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for inviting me, though. I'm really honored and happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. Well, as you know, this video podcast is all about highlighting the amazing people that are doing the work, that are doing the job to spread the message that yoga is for everybody. That's why I'm so happy you're here today. I would like to start asking you, how did you start practicing yoga? What's your yoga journey?
Oh my goodness. So my yoga journey started, so I'm very in the middle of the US. And so I think a lot of our yoga journeys start with finding gym yoga. And so about a little over 10 years ago, I found I was going to a gym that happened to have yoga classes offered. And so I just started popping into those classes because they were available on my schedule. And yoga seemed like a cool thing to do at the time. And then as money allowed, as time allowed, I kind of explored that physical practice in different locations and started seeking out videos and other actual yoga studios just to kind of see, because it was something I liked, but I didn't know why or how or what it would ultimately do for me. But I think a lot of us, we start in that place where it's like, well, it's a class on the schedule and people post about it on the internet, so maybe I will just go. And so that journey kind of took me through, kind of interwoven with a lot of my other kind of fitness journey things as I was kind of going through that diet culture life and like trying to just fill my time all the time with forcing my body to move and to exercise and to push and to do all those things. And then it was finally in the last few years or so that I decided that I wanted a deeper dive into learning about the poses and learning about the practice, and then got into more kind of shoving the other stuff out of the way and focusing more on the yoga practice. And then I finally got to my yoga teacher training last year. So it was January of 2019 when I started yoga teacher training. And what was really exciting for me at the time was that I knew I liked practicing. I got on the bandwagon of sharing my practice on Instagram, and then receiving feedback that people were glad to see this practice. And so I knew I wanted to share it with people. I knew I wanted to know it better. And so that's kind of what all got me in the door at teacher training. But it was, I think also a lot of teachers maybe come to it because they think they're going to deepen their personal practice. And then they just are like, no, I need to share this with everybody all the time. So I became that person. And what sparked that was when I started telling my friends I was in teacher training. A lot of them are like, oh, well, if you were a teacher, I would go to a yoga class. And so I started to hear feedback that going to yoga classes was very intimidating for a lot of people, and that there was not a lot of different body representation in a way that was negatively impacting people. And so I took a chair yoga module in the middle of this teacher training, and I was hooked. I'm like, all right, I'm never going back. Adapted, learning how to use props, that kind of opened up just so much for me. Because even when I was practicing with videos and going to studios and things like that, it was never in the language to like, just start with your props and then we'll use them along the way. I never saw props in the videos I was watching, even though they were very beautiful videos with wonderful lighting and beautiful music. There just wasn't a lot of acknowledgement that you could use props and that it didn't make the practice bad or, it didn't necessarily make it easier either. Like it was just a different way to bring the practice to our bodies so we could actually enjoy what we were doing rather than struggling so much when we didn't need to.
I love that you're mentioning that. Yes, because representation matters. That's why when I found your Instagram, it was like, follow. Yes. Because you show all these amazing things using a chair. The other day, I saw you teaching crow pose on a chair. And it was like, this is brilliant. We need more of this. Because I don't do regular crow. That's canceled in my book, canceled for life. So we need options. I actually started my yoga journey and I created Yoga for All Bodies after a horrible yoga class that a teacher was teaching crow pose. The only option that teacher gave was regular crow pose. So I was basically sitting there watching everybody practice.
Yeah.
Oh no, that can't happen. So congratulations for the job you are doing.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I can't take all of the credit for it, obviously, because I think when we're new teachers, I make the joke that we're like a yoga teacher cover band for the time that we start teaching, because we don't necessarily have our own voice. We teach from the words that the people we admire taught first until we can find our own voice. And so after I finished my 200-hour training, I went into Yoga for All training with Diane Bondi and Amber Carnes. And so I will say I probably did a lot of cover music of theirs in my teaching and still do. But that was that inspiration to bring those props into practice in a way that was not special. It was just regular, like regular class uses props. It's not a special situation. It's not a special class. It's just like we all can use props all of the time in any class that we're in. And so that was where that all started. And I think the only way that we can get good at practicing that way is to practice a lot ourselves and to play and to explore and just see how the props help us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also took that training. That training is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I also took it once I finished I think I hadn't even finished the 200 hour because I knew that we needed to share that message. And I love that training is super focused, like almost in a vinyasa way that you can flow using your props and everything. But later I discovered that I don't teach vinyasa. But the seed is there, the inspiration is there. So if you're watching this video, search Yoga for All training. Amber Carnes, Diane Bondi.
Yep.
Do it.
Yes.
And Jill, what can you tell us about the name of your brand, Room to Be Yoga?
Yeah, so I know I am talking to the brand making person right now. And so mine is not as logical as yours did. I think and if you don't mind segueing into talking about branding a little bit.
Yes.
I noticed, so when I was trying to come up, so quarantine happened, right? So we're in a pandemic. We don't have to go teach in the world anymore. And so it seemed like a good time to set up my Instagram presence that was separate from my regular personal presence that I had created. And so I was trying to figure out as a teacher if I wanted to name my practice based around the shape of me as a teacher or the students I was trying to reach. Because sometimes we name ourselves after our own self, like chubby teacher, funny yoga teacher. I'm not good at these things. But and then sometimes it is things like yoga for all, and sometimes our branding kind of fits more like the students that we're trying to attract rather than who we are as the teacher in that way. And so I think what it boiled down to is that I wanted to come up with a name that kind of fits my vibe, I guess. I don't know. But I was just like, what kind of space am I trying to cultivate? I think is what I was asking myself at the time. And I've gotten really into this idea of body autonomy that I think we lose when we're in diet culture and when we're in fitness culture, that we show up to be told what to do, and that we're supposed to feel shame when we can't do these XYZ things that we are told to do. And we just spend our whole entire lives doing stuff that other people expect of us to do, how we're supposed to do it with their checklists, with their plans for us. And we lose so much of ourselves in that, and that we lose our intuition, our ability to understand what our bodies are really asking of us at any given point in time. And I wanted to create a space where I was in a role as maybe a facilitator, where I'm like, my room is open. You can come to your mat. Your mat is your space, that is yours. And that I have ideas, but ultimately this is your time. This is your body's choice on what happens when we're together. And so just that idea of just bringing ourselves back to ourselves was kind of the foundation of that. And then it was just a matter of finding names that weren't already taken yet, because because I am very late to the yoga branding game in the grand scheme of things that have names of them. And so so I went through, so Room to Be ended up being a nice balance between the space I wanted to cultivate and a name that wasn't already taken by something else that I could tell.
Well, I love the name. I love it. Mm-hmm. And I remember the day you changed that, because I think before you had a different handle. And I read that and I loved it. Because at the end of the day, it's an invitation. It's an invitation, room to be. Come as you are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, love it.
Yay. Well, good. I'm glad that you, in your knowledge, think that it's good. So
amazing. Yeah. And what would you say that change in the way you are teaching and the people that you're getting now in classes before the pandemic and in the pandemic? How was that journey?
So it is. Oh my gosh. So before pandemic, I have if you've met my Instagram ever, you'll know that I have this basement space that I'm always in when I'm filming and when I'm teaching. And that's the house that I live in. So I'm upstairs above the earth right now. So downstairs, we just have this big open room, and that I bought foam floor for it. And while I was in yoga teacher training, I just started inviting my friends into the space downstairs so I would have people to practice teaching on. And then eventually I just turned it into a weekly place where people could come and practice, and I added a couple of classes, but I kept it, because it's my home, I kept it very like friends and friends of friends could come and practice with me. And it was really, because I wasn't attached to an external studio, I wasn't as impacted by the pandemic because I didn't lose my space. And I didn't have bills to pay, to keep a studio space open. And so I feel very fortunate and very lucky, but it was also really important to me that I didn't lose connection with my students if I could help it. And so what I did, and I'm still kind of deciding if this was the best idea or not, but what I did is I took my existing schedule exactly as it was, and I converted it into an online schedule. And just said, okay, it's going to be the same classes, but here's a link you can get when you come. And when it seemed like we might not be in a pandemic forever, but things were going well, I started to worry that when it was time to come back to our space, these are literally the only 3 times a week I can teach. And so if there ever is a time where I have people that want to keep practicing online, but also want to be in my studio space, like how am I going to manage that? Do I do hybrid classes? Do I just stop doing the online sometimes, or do I still keep it online even though they want to come back? And so it's hard to know how to reach theoretical students. Like we try to build our schedules, we try to build our business around the idea of students, or or people that fill out surveys and then never show up, like, so and so it's hard to make those plans. So that's why it seemed easiest to just convert my existing schedule online and then just deal with it. And so far we're not out of the weeds on this, or out of the woods on this yet. So that is fine. I found now that I teach more non-local people than I do local people now. I only kept a few of my local students, and it took a really long time to understand that wasn't a reflection of me as a teacher, but rather the situations that our students are in when they're not able to leave and go to a studio space. And so I learned that my students, once they got into their own homes, they didn't have their own space to practice. They didn't have permission to step away from their families long enough, or they didn't have the props that they needed. And so it became a very different dynamic with a lot of students that I had been teaching. But on the flip side, this opened up this whole new audience of students who have been looking for teachers like me and looking for safe spaces to practice in, that weren't local to where they were. And so converting to teaching online has been very rewarding in that way. I've met a lot of people that I would have not met otherwise. And I've been very fortunate that it happened all through Instagram, like that I didn't have to do much else except show up and be myself on the internet. What a weird concept.
You've said some amazing things in this minute, I would say. Because one, as a yoga teachers, we are super hard on ourselves. And when people don't come back to classes, it's because of us. We messed up. We were horrible. Mm-hmm. And no. So if you're watching this video, you're a yoga teacher, erase that mindset. There are a lot of factors that, yes, and especially in the type of yoga that we teach, that we are giving tools for people, I see it almost like kindergarten. You give them the tools and then they empower themselves and they can go and practice power yoga, ashtanga, whatever they want to practice. Mm-hmm. So it's not because you're not doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. Yes. And the other thing, I love what you're mentioning about Instagram. Yeah. I'm a believer that especially Instagram, because it's the platform that allows you to do everything. You can do video, you can do text, you can show up the way you are. That thing you said is key. What more can you tell us about being yourself in social media?
I can tell you exactly. So I'm one of those people that never started wearing makeup because I knew once I started wearing makeup, I would have to do it forever.
Oh,
like
yes.
once, like that I feel like that I've set this expectation that I'm always going to show up a certain way all of the time. And so when I started my Instagram, I realized that I am too old at this point to be anybody but myself, that I didn't have anything to prove. I didn't have the energy to curate special content. That's just not the kind of person I am anymore. And I don't have the patience for it. And so I think there's enough very curated, very pretty, very flexible, very athletic. I think that representation, very white lady, like that representation is already very set in the world, and that there's plenty of accounts to follow if you're looking for that kind of content. And knew right away that I was not going to be one of those content people that was going to try to show off or make things look uniform. That I just wanted to be as honest with everybody as I possibly could, that this is going to be me all of the time, 100% of the time, possibly in pajamas, probably rolling around on the floor, taking my drink breaks. Like it's and it's far more rewarding to just always be yourself instead of trying to kind of segment yourself into different versions of yourself to present for different people or for different reasons. It's just a lot of work. And in our yoga practice, with our yoga philosophy, we talk about that satya, that truthfulness, that willingness to be honest with ourselves and what we're able to, the workload we can take on, the just who we are as a person, what we like to do, what we don't like to do. And again, because of all of the stuff I was talking about earlier about how much of our life we give to other people, this practice has been, and even just as silly as having an Instagram practice is just like, well, what do I just look like when I'm just showing up for myself and showing up on my mat and showing up for students? And so it's been very important to me to just always just, you get what you see kind of person. And that's kind of been my presence. And it's a lot more fun to communicate with the community that way too, because they're just seeing me, and then that allows them to feel like they can be them, and that there's no judgment, there's no hierarchy involved. There's not like, here's me, yoga teacher, and then like little student. Like we're all just like people trying to figure out ourselves and our bodies and our feelings all of the time.
That's amazing. For me, the only way to have success, to kill it on Instagram, to kill it in life, is being yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be a copycat. Why? And it's the only way to make it for the long run. Mm-hmm. If you are being a character every day, maybe you're going to have the energy for a year. But if you show the way you are, 10 years, 20 years, forever.
Yeah. And there's more forgiveness there when you do need to change or you need to slow down, because you didn't set an unrealistic bar on one end that you have to fight to keep up the whole time. You just show up when you can in a way that is not exhausting, and then hope for the best.
Yes. And the beautiful thing about that is that you attract your people, the people that resonate with you, that are going to, at the end of the day, become, well, your students, fans, and family. So, amazing advice for all the yoga teachers. I know when you receive your 200 hours, you are called to maybe replicate what your teachers are sharing, but slow down, self-study, and show up the way you are. Yes.
Yes. And students love authentic teachers too. Like students can tell the difference between somebody who is truly themselves and somebody who's performing for them. They can tell.
Ooh, they smell it a mile away. Yes. And Jill, I know you became a sensation because of the wiggles. And wow, this is amazing. And I started noticing other people doing the wiggles. What are the wiggles? How that was born? What can you tell us?
So I don't dance. I don't like, I understand that there's this pull to like show up on Instagram and like learn fancy choreography and like, or maybe the TikTok thing. I don't know. I don't understand anything, but there was just like, again, something that takes so much work, and like re-recording things and like getting it right and feeling like we look good enough. And these wiggles that I just started doing are just those little pieces of like free movement joy that we don't let ourselves have all of the time. And so I'll just think of a word, because I'm a comedian, I'm an improviser, so I do a lot of comedy based off of just like hearing a word and then taking that and running with it. That's kind of how we're trained to do comedy. And so I'll just like think of a word and I'll look up a song in the Reels playlist, and then if I see one that I've heard of, or like, which is very few songs anymore, or if it's ironic for some reason, or just like whatever I can use to tell that story or that joke that day, I'll pick that song and then I'll just like listen to it and I'm like, okay, I know what to do with this. And so it's just kind of, it's just this just little way to add unstructured body movement joy in a way that nobody expects it to look a certain way, that we have to maybe look at ourselves looking a little weird sometimes, and still knowing that we're lovable and valuable, even even when we're not doing something super pretty or
but it's
or
super
whatever.
fun. It's fun, and I love when you reshare the people doing the wiggles. It's amazing.
Yep.
So if you're open, can we wiggle right now?
Oh, sure. I may have to. So headphones, I'm attached to my computer, so don't let me wiggle too hard or I will start knocking things over.
All right.
All right.
So how do we wiggle?
So this is what I say. I'm going to back up a little bit. We'll do chair wiggles.
Okay.
And so I always start at the shoulders, and then I decide I'm going to take a part of my body and I'm going to move it from its regular place, and then I'm going to put it back in its place. And then I'm going to do that with the other side. Out of its place, back in its place. And then it just keeps going from there.
I love it.
And then you might start moving side to side. Yep.
I'm feeling it.
Yep. And then see, you even stood up, you were that excited. And then your hands might get in, you might start pointing. I do the finger like points all the time. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. That's what I instantly want to start doing. But yeah, it's that simple. And you just do that with any part of your body you want to.
Love it. And it's also like super down regulating.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. A lot of benefits.
Yes.
Of the wiggles.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes when we're just sitting at computers all day, we're just like, and we're stressed. Like whenever we get an email that makes us upset, like we're very in tune, or as teachers, at least I've learned to be in tune to that fact of my breath kind of disappearing when something really stressful happens. And so taking time to not respond in that moment from that breathless place, but rather sitting back, wiggling out, finding breath again, and then maybe answering an email or responding to somebody or an angry comment on the internet or whatever that is. Just that little bit of detention or coming back just a second and not responding from that instant shakeup is really helpful. It makes sure that we say the right thing.
Yes.
Rather than saying something that we regret saying because we just felt like we had to say something. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And also there's a question that I ask all the guests. Okay. Because Yoga for All Bodies is about variations and using props. Mm-hmm. So I would like to know, what is your favorite prop and why?
So this is a surprise, and I know we're at the end of this, so I won't talk about it forever, but I think if it came down to it, I would probably say that my chair is my very favorite prop because it fills the role of so many props all at the same time. And so we can use it as our wall, we can use it as our blocks, we can rest in it. It fills a lot of the check boxes for things that I need, where sometimes it's hard to drag all of my props around. Or if our students, again, when they're practicing at home and don't have a lot of things available to them, the chair is a very well-rounded prop to use to support us when there aren't other options. So
love it.
Yeah.
Yes. These days also the chair is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And finally, how can people find you? Promote yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna wiggle the whole time.
Yay.
So I'm Jill. I have an Instagram profile called Room to Be Yoga. And that's pretty much where I link my class schedule and workshops and things is from that place. And I curate a lot of my class content based on the conversations that I have with my followers and with my students, because I don't have an external studio. Or I guess I lied. I'm going to backtrack. I also teach through bodypositivefitness.ca, which is a Toronto-based body positive, and it's a full gym experience. So you can sign up and you can go to lift classes and Zumba classes and regular circuit training classes and different things and then they happen to have also yoga on their schedule. And so so I do things on their schedule, but I'm in my own I'm in my own house. And a lot of the students there are part of my community now too, because we just have to, us body positive folks, we just have to be in community together.
Yes.
And support each other in that way. And so I have a lot of overlap there. And so it feels so, even though I've got that studio that I have to report to, I still talk with their students and I still try to curate classes based on what they want and need, and it's really fun. And so so Instagram's kind of the hub of all of where all that communication happens. And so Room
Amazing.
to Be Yoga.
Go and follow Jill right now. You will not regret it. Do it. Thank you so much, Jill, for being here, for sharing your journey, sharing your passion. Thank you.
Oh, you too. Thanks for inviting me and letting me talk and listening to me talk.
Thank you.
I appreciate you so much.
Oh, me too. And if you're watching this video, like it, share it, subscribe, because everybody needs to hear this message. Everybody can practice yoga. See you soon. Bye, Jill. Bye in your house. See you.